So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And I was looking at a piece by Vice on YouTube on an area in London called Southall, where a lot of people of Punjabi heritage seem to live in. This is a long intro, isn't it? And I wanted to talk about that. So I guess I will in a minute. Of course, I am Earthling, yada yada yada. I have a couple of degrees. I've traveled to some cool places, and I lost almost 100 pounds of weight from my highest. I quit smoking, kept both of those things at bay, and now I take care of my uncle who has dementia. So that's it for me. Of course, if you've liked anything that I've produced on this channel, or you think you might like this content, you can go ahead and hit like, please. As you know, it's good for the YouTube algorithm. It ensures that YouTube might direct more people to this content. So yeah, thanks. Anyway, this thing with Southall London, apparently it is a place where a lot of immigrants of Punjabi descent seem to live. They seem to come to the community when they come from Punjab. And so there's a lot of people who unfortunately may have overstayed their visas or who may be living there illegally. The piece that they did was how the community is being affected by the pandemic. That's part of it, I believe, yeah. And I was astounded by the diversity of different types of people in that community. What they presented, I mean, they didn't present, as far as I saw, like wealthy people. The people who they interviewed for the piece, there was one guy who was, I guess you'd call him a mobster. He admits it. He pumps a lot of iron. He is a very bulky, huge guy. And he says he's been involved in every kind of illegal activity that you can think of, cutting off people's fingers, extortion, whatever. But he is a Sikh as far as I can tell. He has the head wrap on his head. And I would imagine either because of, peer pressure in terms of what would people say if he took off his head wrap, but he has that, he's still following that bit of it anyway with respect to his religion. He's a Sikh. And I was just like, so you're a Sikh and you're readily admitting that you've been involved in so much criminal activity. I was like, whoa. And they spoke to, now I don't know what, the percentage of Sikhs who are from Punjab. I'm assuming that Punjab is an area in Pakistan, or I'm thinking it's in Pakistan. But clearly this one guy was a Sikh. There was another girl who, unfortunately, she'd fallen into a habit of drug addiction, I guess. So she said that she came over from Punjab, I presume, or someplace where she feels comfortable in the community. And she was saying that she didn't know that this guy that she was, I guess it was a boyfriend, that he was involved in drugs. And she got involved in drugs. And even though she's no longer with him, she still uses drugs regularly. Part of her description of her life and with respect to the pandemic, she voiced all of the conspiracy theories. Well, not all. The whole idea that the vaccine is what actually gives you the disease. I was like, what? And they showed a piece with the cops, I guess in London. They're going around. They saw somebody sleeping at the side of a building. So the cops went over to the guy, and they're asking him, "Hey, what are you here about?" And I guess they're just searching him. So one of them produced the screw. Just it looks like just a regular screw, and he's like, I asked him whether or not he had anything on him that could hurt me, and this screw that you see here, he probably could have used this screw to hurt me, and maybe it was underneath the guy's bedding or something. But it very easily could have been a screw that the guy inadvertently slept on as well, or it could be exactly like what the cop was saying. The cop also produces or shows the like drug paraphernalia, like pipes, and he's like, yeah, these guys, they go over into this area where this industrial area, and they buy these pipes, and these pipes are exclusively for using with drugs. And I'm thinking, whoa, okay. And this is a guy from Asia. I don't know if the cops have the same ability or have the same restrictions as in the US, where cops, especially, I guess, London cops, are not supposed to be involved in immigration, like rounding up people. So I don't know that he checked the guy's documentation to see whether or not he was in the UK legally or not. But the end of it was that the cops were like, well, there's nothing that we can do, so we're going to leave him here. I'm like, okay, I guess that's okay. Really? You're going to... Because initially when they approached him, I thought, oh, they're going to run this guy off. They're going to say, hey, get out of here. You can't sleep here or whatever. But no, they just... Can one say harassed him for no good reason? Because if you're lying down on the side of it's a covered area, what are you doing? You're just lying down there. And if there's a problem, I thought the problem would have been because he was lying down there. But no, they just approach him, search him with the cameras on them, and yeah, they just describe the screw, and then they just say, well, we're going to leave him here because there's nothing we can do. There's nothing he's doing wrong. So why are you, talking to him? Why did you even go up to him? Anyway, in addition to that, there were people that they spoke to whose, face they didn't even show. And these people were saying that, they'd heard about that there was work in England. So they came over, and when they came over, their passports were taken from them. And they were, in some ways, living in kind of slavery, where they were doing work, and these people who had enticed them from Punjab were basically using them and exploiting them, and they didn't feel that they could go to the authorities because I guess now they were in the UK illegally. And there also was, I believe, they went to a soothsayer. I'm sorry, I'm losing the actual modern day word for that. A fortune teller. And the fortune teller, it was an undercover thing. So they were saying that these fortune tellers exploit people and they take advantage of them, which is the same kind of thing that you see in many other communities. And this individual fortune teller that they went to was telling them that somebody had cast bad spells on them, the individual who went to the fortune teller, and in order to get rid of that bad energy from inside of the person, that the fortune teller would need £500 in order to dispel that bad spell that was cast on them. And I was like, £500? What the hell? I mean, in an area where the people obviously, one of the things that they were saying is that in this area, there are a lot of people who are living in very, very dense circumstances, like several families to a house or things along those lines. And these people are not going to be involved in any kind of white collar employment. These are people who are going to be delivering things, taxi drivers, whatever. These are not wealthy people, at least the ones that we are seeing, and maybe even the ones who are going to fortune tellers. So clearly, this is just huge exploitation on the part of these fortune tellers who they really should know that their stuff doesn't work. I think like the person was like, "What are you gonna do with 500 pounds?" And the fortune teller's like, "Well, I have to buy oranges. I have to buy 101 oranges, and I have to buy this. I have to buy that." I'm like, can't you use cheaper materials for your, please? You're just making up stuff that you need. But back to the big guy that I was talking about at the beginning, the Sikh. This guy, he's talking about how they thought at the beginning that hydroxychloroquine would be helpful. So he went to the pharmacist and he had to line up for however long, and they told him that they didn't have any. And he mentions that, I'm trying to stay on the straight and narrow, but I threatened the pharmacist. I said, "I'm going to come over this counter and I'm going to beat you up unless you give me a couple boxes of this stuff." And I was like, whoa. So this was not a piece that was self-congratulating the Asian community on doctors and lawyers, and I thought that it was a very understandable and a real and an honest view of the hardships that everybody experiences. These people could have been white, these people could have been black, these people could have been anybody. It didn't matter if they were from Punjab, it doesn't matter if they were Sikhs, it doesn't matter if they weren't. This was just a lot of people who were going through a lot of different hardships because of their poverty, and because, perhaps in part, because they came to another country looking for a better life, and things clearly did not work out in their favor. People who are Asian or who are from Punjab, and I have to admit, I don't know where Punjab is. I think some of them might look at this and think, "Oh my God, you're bringing down the community and you're painting us in a bad light and blah, blah, blah." But I don't think that that's the case. In Punjab, I'm sure that there are people who are addicted to one substance or another. I am sure that there are mobsters. I am sure that there are people who are poor. I'm sure that there are a lot of difficulty in all across Asia. But, because, especially in America, which is where we see a lot of film output, whether it might be documentaries, whatever it might be, we don't realize the filtration, the self-fulfilling prophecy of immigration, the immigrants that are allowed into the U.S. And even those who are allowed into the U.S., we don't see the ones who may get deported very easily for whatever reason. We don't see the ones who have to work these long, horrible hours, who do not go to Harvard, who do not become rich and wealthy like Bobby Lee or Hassan Minaj. So I think it's a good piece. It was an informative piece for me, so that, and it can be an informative piece for anybody who sees it and believes the stereotypes and the misinformation that they may have grown up hearing about Asian people being one particular thing. The same way that the Vulcans are intelligent and calm, and the Klingons are violent and warlike. So then how do they get their ships working? How do they get their ships repaired if they're all violent and warlike? So, I don't know. I liked watching it. I thought it was cool to show the reality of, unfortunate reality for many people who are foreigners, who may be illegal in the UK or just any country. in general. Yeah, I would recommend it. I'd recommend you taking a look at it. Anyway, feel free to like, share, subscribe, comment, any of that good YouTube stuff, because it can help promote my videos if you don't mind. And yeah, with that in mind, hopefully you will do that in the same spirit as you would like people to do if this were your YouTube content. Have a good one. Peace.